I haven't talked to them. He said
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the regular meeting of the DeKalb City Council, October 14, 2019. Prior to our call to order and roll call this evening, a few housekeeping items. One is an obvious one that we announce at each and every city council meeting, and that is for anyone who would like to join in under public participation. We kindly ask you to fill out a speaker request form. They're in the back of the room there in the foyer, and kindly give that to our city clerk, Lynn Fazekas, who will get that to me, and we will get you on in the order that we receive those. You have the option, anyone has the option of speaking either during item D on the agenda, public participation, or if you'd prefer to wait until the item that you'd like to address, if it is on the agenda, you're more than welcome to do it at that time. The second housekeeping item tonight, I have some good news and bad news. The bad news is that we are unable to televise our meeting tonight because the system in the back was still fried, and we're working on getting a part. We hope to have a jury-rigged kind of version to try to come up with in a couple of weeks at our next meeting. We do have this on audio, so for those of you who tuned into Channel 14 and you can only hear us but not see us, I guess you have half the show tonight. You have the audio. We are taping this meeting in the back, and we only have 6 aldermen with us tonight, and the reason that we moved everyone sort of this way is because we were not able to have our first ward, Alderman Carolyn Morris, on the tape last time, I understand, because you were too far right, okay? So we moved everybody down, and I think everybody's going to be able to be on that recording, which we will post probably tomorrow, I think, the day after our meeting on YouTube. So if you'd like to watch the meeting, you're more than welcome to do that on YouTube. You'll notice that we only have 6 aldermen tonight, following the resignation of our 4th Ward Alderman Pat Fagan, who moved to a different ward in a different neighborhood. We do have a vacancy on that. It is my responsibility to appoint a replacement to fill the unexpired term of Mr. Fagan. And I'm just pleased to report that we have 6, count them, 6 folks who have indicated an interest to me that they would be interested in chatting about fulfilling Pat Fagan's term. I will be scheduling those interviews over the next couple of weeks, and hopefully we will have a replacement to put a name put before the city council in a few weeks. Okay? So that's good news for us, and hopefully good news for those in the 4th Ward. With that, I'd like to ask our city clerk, Lynn Fazekas, to call the roll, please.
Morris.
Here.
Finucane.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
McAdams.
Here.
Verbeek.
Here.
Favor.
Here.
Mayor Smith.
Here.
7 present.
Thank you. If you'd kindly rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. For those of you who have an agenda, and if you don't, there are copies in the back. We're now on item C, which is approval of the agenda. And I would ask a motion to approve the agenda unless there's a desire to add or delete anything from tonight's agenda. Do I have any suggested additions and deletions? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve tonight's agenda, please.
So moved.
Second?
It's been moved by Alderman Verbeek, seconded by Alderman Favor. Roll call.
Fanouken,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
McAdams.
Yes.
Verbic,
Yes.
Favor,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Mayor Smith,
Yes.
7-0.
Thank you. The agenda is approved as printed. Okay, public participation, D. I have one person who would like to speak at this time under public participation, and that is Leslie Conklin. Leslie, if you'd come to the podium, please. I'd ask all folks tonight to try to adhere to our 3-minute limit on public participation. And so Leslie, go for it.
This will be very short.
Thank
And
you.
it kind of relates to parking. Personally, I think more parking for the apartments would be good, so I personally don't have a problem with Pappas putting the parking there, but I do have a problem with the inconsistency of the parking rules. And now I'm kind of mad because I got a ticket. So I'm mad. But I got a ticket in the designated parking lot and I had my placard, but I wasn't in a designated spot. So I was overnight, I wasn't in the spot, which is fine, I don't mind following the rules, but when I walk through that parking lot, because I live downtown and I have a store downtown, I never see anybody park there, get a ticket, who's parked there without a placard. I went through, there was probably 10 or 15 cars that parked there, and then there's no spaces. If there's no space for us to park, then we park. So there has to be consistency in the rules. So I just want it to be fair. And the other problem is, I noticed that at night, the policemen will give tickets overnight, but the policemen don't give parking tickets. We rely on our CEOs, who are out there half the time and then not half the time. And as a small business owner downtown, we have the new 3-hour parking. But there's no one checking, because we're out there, and if we call, we can't get the police to come down and park a ticket, because we can't mark the tires. So the new 3-hour, which I was against, I think, Mayor Smith, I was the only one, you said I was the only one who thought it should be an hour parking on the main streets. They just either move their cars, so they can park there for 12 hours, there's 4 spots in front of my building, and nobody will come out and ticket. There's no consistency in the rules. And no consistency in some of the other parking rules on the street, especially with all the construction, with which, Bill, you've helped with immensely. But we have so many, the industry is parked on the streets, and as a small business owner, we have a real hard time getting our customers to the door. So eventually, we would like to entertain at a different time, maybe some kind of a loading zone for one of those spots, because it's just very inconvenient for people to unload, load. I sell furniture. We're either double parking, somebody's going to get clipped, and we need more CEOs marking the tires and being more strict on the street and in the parking lot. I just want it to be fair. I don't mind following the rules. I just want everyone else to follow them as well. That's it, just consistency in the parking, so we all know what's going on. Again, I had the placard, but I wasn't in the right location. But the people in the location, they're not getting tickets. But that's it.
Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, we move along now to presentations. Our first one is ILEAP. I'm going to ask City Manager Bill Nicholas to speak to this item, Illinois Law Enforcement Accreditation Program.
Thank you, Mayor. Police Chief Dean Stigmeyer from Maple Park Police Department is here tonight. He'd like to present the ILEAP accreditation plaque to the city, more specifically to our police department. He'll give a few remarks about the accreditation process and its importance, and then following that, Police Chief Petrogallo will say a little something about the process.
Welcome. Great to have you.
Thank you. Is this okay over here?
Please.
Prepare. Something to do with my DOB on my driver's license says I need to wear these.
You do have a driver's license.
I have one. Yes, I think I do. This is an exciting time for your city. The accreditation from the Illinois Association of Chiefs of Police is a coveted award, and it's not easy to obtain. I'm sure you're going to be hearing a little bit about the trials and tribulations that went on to get to this point. But I do have a couple of talking points I'd like to point out to you. I'm sure some of you are aware of these already, but some of you aren't, so I want to enlighten the people that aren't. The Illinois Law Enforcement Accreditation Program is a partnership with several major organizations in Illinois, including the Illinois Chiefs, the Illinois Municipal League, the City County Management Association, and the Illinois Criminal Justice Information Authority. This is the accreditation authority for the state of Illinois. The accreditation is significant for your police department and your community. The process began under your former chief and was fully embraced by Chief Pietrogallo. We have 2 levels of accreditation. DeKalb has achieved our highest level of accreditation, which we call Tier 2. Tier 2 has 180 standards. We review all of your policies and procedures in the context of these standards. We look at 4 areas: administration, training, operations, and personnel. This accreditation is a testament to Chief Pietrogallo and to Commander Jason Leverton, who is the department's accreditation manager. To achieve accreditation, it's a rigorous process, taking many, many months, in this case, maybe a couple of years, for a department to demonstrate its compliance with the standards. Our assessors have been reviewing your policies and files, and they came here for an on-site assessment and talked to officers and city officials to get a good feel for what's happening. After reviewing a lot of documentation provided by your department, 2 experienced assessors prepared a report, and the Accreditation Council unanimously recommended that the DeKalb Police Department be accredited. So congratulations to Chief Pietrogallo, to Commander Leverton, for staying with this process and achieving this lofty status. There are only 38 Illinois agencies that have achieved this accreditation since the program began 10 years ago. So you can be sure that you have a professional department that is up to date with its policies and procedures. The Illinois Chiefs are very proud of Chief Pietrogallo and the DeKalb Police Department for this accomplishment, and we believe that you should be too. Chief? This ILEAP accreditation says the Illinois Accreditation Council verifies that the DeKalb, Illinois Police Department has policies, procedures, and daily routines that are in full compliance with the professional standards of modern law enforcement. Congratulations.
Thank you, gentlemen. John, I understand you have a few remarks also.
Yes, Mayor. Good evening. Thank you very much, Chief. Greatly appreciate this. It means a lot to us. We as a department have been working very hard to achieve this accreditation status, and we're honored having achieved it. I'd like to take just a few moments to make some acknowledgments by some folks that over the years have been a part of this, and I'll start with retired Chief Bill Fiden. So this process really started with Bill about a decade ago. So Chief Fiden found it beneficial that his department be accredited, and knew it would be a very good thing for the police department. It would hold officers to a higher standard. So he began to pursue it. He tasked Commander Leverton, who's here tonight, to conduct a full policy review and update, which would help the department prepare for accreditation in the future. We had some, unfortunately it wasn't able to happen with this building. It wasn't suited for accreditation for operational purposes. So I'd also like to acknowledge retired Chief Gene Lowry. Chief Lowry saw the importance of making sure our policies reflected best practices and continued our efforts to further professionalize our department. He further tasked Commander Leverton to pursue ILEAP accreditation, and he made it a priority. So that's important. He supported it, and it was a priority to the department. And lastly, I'd like to acknowledge Commander Jason Leverton. Jason spent the better part of the last 2 years on this project, amongst many other things, researching, updating, and submitting proofs for our department's policies and procedures. His commitment toward the accreditation process is a big reason we're here tonight to accept this plaque. So Jason, can you come up here and take a photo with us, please? Very much part of this process. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you once again, appreciate it. Okay, our next presentation is going to be made by one who is certainly no stranger to us, and that is the Executive Director of Ellen Rogers of the Voluntary Action Center, who is going to give a report on the FY 2019 Human Services funding received from the city. Hi, Ellen.
Hello, Mayor, and thank you very much for your warm welcome. Of course, child labor laws were not in place when I first started at VAC, so this Friday it'll be 30 years. So yes, I've been around here a lot. As VAC is one of the originally funded agencies through the City of DeKalb's Human Service grant program, we are grateful for the years of support you've given. VAC would not be the agency it is without the strong partnership given by the City of DeKalb in serving its citizenry. In the beginning, VAC was known for its services for the elderly and persons with disabilities. Today, both our transportation program and nutrition programs reflect an even more diverse group of individuals and needs. As a part of the City of DeKalb's transit system, VAC's ridership has increased, as has its service area, including NIU and connecting other cities to important resources within the City of DeKalb. We look forward to this partnership continuing to grow, and although there have been some bumps in the road, yes, the pun was intended, I think some really great things have happened and will continue to happen with that partnership, and we're very grateful to Marcus Cox for his role in helping make this all happen. VAC's nutrition service is best known for its Meals on Wheels program, but it also includes the Senior Luncheon Congregate program and the Summer Meal program for children, which included meals through Camp Power, funded in part through the Community Development Block Grant. Funding through the city has traditionally been used for transit and the senior nutrition programs and will continue to do so. These programs have a match requirement for state and federal grants. So essentially what that means is we have to raise a certain percentage of local money in order to capture $1 of the federal money. For instance, with the transit grants, 35% has to come through local sources. Certainly the City of DeKalb with their federal grant helps with that state grant, but we also have an obligation in our contract to meet some of that local match needs. It's a little bit different with the nutrition program in that grant is very much capped and certainly capped below what is actually needed to provide that service. And for the Meals on Wheels program, certainly the need has outgrown the resources we have available. As we baby boomers impacted the school system, we're now doing that to the aging network. Currently, we have 36 residents in DeKalb that are on a waiting list, which is 50 people within the DeKalb Sycamore area. Not only is additional funding needed for that program, but we are in desperate need of volunteers. As an example, we have a Meals on Wheels route serving the Annie Glidden North Corridor and the surrounding complexes. In order to meet even part of that need, we've had to put in place a paid driver, which obviously increases the cost of the meals. But we also have on the waiting list, 16 people residing in that area. And we do find that many of them certainly meet the criteria for greatest need for that service, both economically and in terms of isolation and disability. And in addition, we do have certainly some other areas of the city that remain underserved. Last year, our human service funding was reduced by about 17%. And although I think I understand some of the logic of the recommendation made to council for that reduction, because when you look at the VAC budget, it certainly is one of the largest not-for-profit budgets that is supported by the city of DeKalb. But we're unique in that, the transportation program does receive very substantial state and federal grants. But our nutrition program is not in that same position, and certainly that's reflected by waiting lists and reduced services. And the budget, as I said, the grants are capped. For instance, our congregate budget for serving almost 400 people a year, it's $50,000. So that has had a real impact. We hope to have the opportunity, certainly hoping that the human service funded programs continue, that we would have an opportunity to perhaps better present our case, because clearly I don't think that we maybe conveyed the need or were given the opportunity to share with the committee involved some of the challenges we face and why that cut really did have an impact on our program. Basically, it left 1,000 meals off the table. So, we're hopeful that there can be a little change in the process, that we can provide information that would be needed. Again, we really appreciate the support that we've gotten over the years. Without the city of DeKalb, there would not have been transit grants. There would have been many things lacking, not only in our agency, but in agencies throughout the city. So thank you very much. Appreciate, all you do to support a better community.
Thank you, Ellen. Any questions of anyone, Ellen? Again, and our congratulations on your 30 years at VAC.
Thank you
very much. Appreciate it. Our
I'm
third.
sure Tracy is shopping for that.
I beg your pardon?
I'm sure Alderman Smith is shopping.
Oh, okay. Our third presentation tonight is Jane Hateman, who is representing the Christian Rural Overseas Program, or known as the Crop Walk. That was held a couple of weeks ago, and I understand it was quite successful. But to elaborate on that statement, I'm going to call on Jane Hateman for the State of Hunger Crop Walk event results. Jane?
Well, this will be a good one for all of you because you don't have to vote on anything. This was the 50th anniversary of Crop Hunger Walks. CROP is an acronym for Christian Rural Overseas Program, and CROP actually began in 1947 as part of Church World Service, with the mission being to have Midwest farmers share their grain with families in post-World War II Europe. Crop Walks began in 1969 in Bismarck, North Dakota, where they had 1,000 walkers and raised $25,000. That was our goal for this year's walk. This year's walk was held on October 6th, starting at First United Methodist Church in DeKalb. 20 churches and other organizations participated. The walk is named in memory of Dr. Sandra King, who was a professor of food and nutrition at NIU and who visited over 12 countries on missions related to world hunger. One time when she was at work, she received a call from someone asking if she would go to Uzbekistan. Without hesitation, she said yes, and when she hung up, she had to find out where it was located because she didn't know. But that's the type of person she was. Walks years ago were sometimes 20 miles or more, but this year we had a short walk of just over a mile and a longer walk of 4 miles. 20 churches and organizations were represented with over 80 walkers, plus many volunteers involved, including the Boy Scouts from First United Methodist Church, who helped direct people on the walk, the ham radio operators who monitor the walk in case a walker has a difficulty and has a fall or whatever, and they can help them. And as I told the people at church, at First Methodist Church the day of the walk, we don't care if you walk, we want your money. So 25% of this amount, so this year, this year we actually exceeded our goal of $25,000, and I checked today and that we received more than $28,000. 25% of this amount is distributed to local food pantries and other agencies. The agencies receiving funds is decided by the team leaders prior to the walk. This year's funds will be given to Barb Food Mart, Hope Haven, Meals on Wheels, Safe Passage, and Sycamore Food Pantry. According to the Health Department, there are 17 food pantries in this county, so there is a great need. 75% is distributed worldwide to help third world countries by providing seeds, education, tools, and tractors to help them have more production of what they grow. When we had our first meeting, John Scogan of Church World Services said, "Jane, it's your church, so you're in charge." My reply was, oh shucks, that's what it was. It did begin with an S, but it wasn't shucks. But God is good. He works in mysterious ways, and He helped us to have a very successful walk. So, thanks for letting me share with you.
Okay, thank you, Jane, and congratulations. Let's give her a hand. Goal of 25,000 and came up with 28,000. Wonderful.
And it's still coming in.
And it's still coming in, right. That's-
You don't have to walk. Look at your money.
Okay. Thank you, Jane, I appreciate it. Okay, let's move along. F, appointments. Approval of the reappointments, or in this case, the appointments, can be done with an omnibus vote of council. Is there an agreement that we can take these in omnibus form? If that's the case, I will read all three of them. Number one, appointment of Nadine Franklin to the Human Relations Commission for the completion of a term through December 31, 2020. Two, appointment of Sheila Pralad to the Finance Advisory Committee for the completion of a term through December 31, 2021. And number three, appointment of Steve Becker to the Planning and Zoning Commission for the completion of a term through December 31, 2022. I'd entertain a motion to approve those appointments, please.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Alderman Fanouken, seconded by Alderman Morris. Any discussion? If not, roll call, please.
Alderman Smith,
Yes.
McAdams.
Yes.
Verbic,
Yes.
Favor,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Fanouken,
Yes.
Mayor Smith,
Yes,
7 aye.
those appointments are approved. Thank you. Item G, consent agenda. All items listed on this consent agenda are enacted by one motion. There's no separate discussion unless requested by a council member, in which event the items will be removed from the consent agenda. Seeing no move to remove any of them, I'm going to read each of the following items. Number one, minutes of the regular city council meeting of September 23, 2019. And number two, accounts payable and payroll through October 14, 2019 in the amount of $1,762,991.54. I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as read. Motion. Okay, I'm going to take that as moved by Alderman Smith and seconded by Alderman McAdams. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
McAdams.
Yes.
Verbic.
Yes.
Favor,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Fanouken,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Mayor Smith,
Yes.
7 aye.
Thank you. The consent agenda is approved as presented. We have no public hearings tonight, so we'll move through item H to item I, considerations. We have one consideration this evening, extending the city manager's spending authority in an amount not to exceed $40,000 as it pertains to H.R. Green's services. We have quite a bit of background on that. However, I know City Manager Nicholas would like to address that.
Thank you, Mayor, and I'll happily answer any questions you may have. But in the background, I explained that it's been 3 months now, we've been using HR Green for just-in-time help with plan review services because of resignation in the plan review function with the city of DeKalb. And we looked at a couple of different options for filling that slot. We went first into the private market to see what it could provide, and that wasn't satisfactory in terms of price. And then we went to more conventional solicitation of interest in that position, and ultimately were successful. And in September, I presented to the council the results of that search, and the council agreed that we had made some decent hires. We have another 3 weeks or so until that new hire can start. It was a delayed hire because of other commitments in the person's current employ. And we're this week pushing beyond that 20,000, and with a couple of substantial plan reviews underway right now, including one for a distribution center on the south side. We expect that we will significantly exceed the initial 20,000. So what I'm basically asking for is to go up another 20,000, and just for this purpose only.
Any discussion? Well, before that, I guess, would you like a vote on that, Bill?
Your a consensus would...
Yeah, consensus, okay. Well, why don't we take a vote? Is there a consensus? Anybody? Okay. Yeah, Alderman Fanouken.
I think that because it is a change in what we have in code, that I think we should vote on it instead of
Okay,
just...
could you get the mic a little
I'm
closer
sorry.
to you there?
I said that because it is a $20,000 limit in the code, I think we probably should vote on it rather
Okay,
than just a
fine.
consensus. I'll make that motion though.
Okay, it's been moved by Alderman Fanouken,
Seconded.
seconded by Alderman McAdams, that we approve this consideration. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Verbic.
Yes.
Favor.
Yes.
Morris.
Yes.
Fanouken.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
McAdams.
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes.
7 ayes.
That's pretty good consensus.
Thank you, Mayor.
Manager
We'll have
Nicholas.
that counted
You're welcome.
when the
Okay,
process-
let's move along. J, resolutions. The first resolution tonight is Resolution 2019-141, authorizing the waiver of competitive bidding and execution of an agreement with Lane Christensen Company for repair and replacement of well parts and equipment in an amount not to exceed $64,675. City Manager Nicholas, please.
The background explains that
Yes, it does.
the council gave us permission to proceed with the repair of our well number 10. It was an expedited repair because we typically keep some replacement parts and equipment, and we use those. And what we're proposing here is to replenish that stock, so if another well goes down, we'll be able to keep that well in service, or get that well back into service on a
I'd
faster
entertain a
timeline.
motion.
So moved.
Second?
It's been moved by Alderman Morris, seconded by Alderman Favor. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Favor.
Yes.
Morris.
Yes.
Fanouken.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
McAdams.
Yes.
Verbic.
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes.
7 ayes.
That resolution is approved. Number 2, Resolution 2019-142, authorizing an agreement with the Daily Policy Group for legislative assistance in identifying and securing airport improvement program federal funds for the DeKalb Municipal Airport. I'd entertain a motion, please.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved by Alderman McAdams, seconded by Alderman Verbeek, and I'd like City Manager Nicholas to speak to this item, and we do have someone who would like to speak to this. Would you like to go ahead? Okay, the individual is Steve Capitan. You'd like to speak to this, please, and then City Manager Nicholas, if you have any comments, please. Hi, Steve.
Thank you, Mayor. My first question about this is related to the issue of, in the expanded backup material. It identifies in the city manager's memo that the city's AIP plan shows nearly $9 million in projects that have not been funded for the period of 2017 to 2022. I'd like further explanation about what has been funded in the period since Patty Daly was not the city's lobbyist, because that's the comparison. What has been the city's experience since then in terms of what has been funded for the airport? I am skeptical of the value of this move.
Thank you, Steve. City Manager Nicholas, please.
Thank you, Mayor. So the airport has had many improvements over the years since the 1940s, when it was just one runway and it was used for military purposes. And it was in the 80s that the city, in the late 80s, with the adoption of tax increment financing district number 1, found a local source to parlay against what would over time become about a 90% share for mostly federal, but also some state monies. But for all intents and purposes, the federal money goes through a funnel to the state IDOT agency, and then from there to regional and local airports. And we have a general aviation airport. We've been able, nevertheless, to build a new runway and to provide fencing around that runway and a variety of instruments that all add up. And I'm not a pilot. I can't give you the technical details, but what we've been aiming for since the late 80s is the ability to land commercial jets, not because we want to run commercial service to Florida or so forth, but because those jets bring in corporate business, and they also are used by NIU for the larger team sports, particularly men's football and such. So that's a level 139 threshold. We are within reach of that after 25, 30 years of some pretty heavy spending, as you can see from the background material. And in much of that period, we have had 2 different consulting services. One is a engineering consulting firm by the name of Crawford, Murphy & Tilley, which is not involved in this particular action, but they've been certainly very involved in the planning of improvements and the designing of improvements, from the runway to lesser improvements. And those plans then have to be taken to IDOT and then ultimately to federal sources to be funded. And because we're getting federal funding for an airport, we have to submit under federal law a 5-year plan and then an annual plan every year that is going to conform to the 5-year plan, or we'd have to amend that 5-year plan. So it's a process, and we feel some urgency right now, and the reason we're exploring this, as I say in my background, is the fact that our local funding source for the capital improvements at the airport, the TIF Fund 1, is going to be gone in 2 years. And we have some heavy lifting to do if we're going to reach that 139 status. It would be, from our staff standpoint, more than a shame to have worked all these years toward that goal and to fall short and not have an alternative funding source. We can't bond for it from our general fund. We don't have the capacity to do that, and will not for a number of years. There's no other dedicated source. It wouldn't be appropriate to use motor fuel tax funds and so forth. So where is that money to come from? Right now it's the TIF fund for the local share, and the federal government for the largest, the lion's share, which is 90%. How do we how do we press our case in a competitive marketplace with many general aviation airports and regional airports and larger metropolitan airports also looking for federal funding and help. We have been successful in the past when we've had a target to give to the consulting firm of the Daly Group to go and press not only the agency personnel who would be most interested in this at the federal level in Washington, but also subcommittee and committee chairs and membership, and ultimately up to voting members, whether in the Senate or in the House. And the track record has been very successful. So I'm coming to you mostly because of the urgency of the loss of our local share, and time is of the essence, and we feel the track record has been very good, and we feel we will be successful. The mayor can report a little bit on a trip that he just made to Washington last week, and can report a little bit on what he saw as Patty Daly introduced him to various people on the Hill who will be instrumental in final decision-making on this. So I recommend this to you.
Thank you, Bill. As a prelude to any discussion that we have on this particular discussion on the resolution, I felt it was time, probably overdue, that I went to Washington and had a face-to-face with staff folks who do so much of the work on our legislative offices. So over a 3-day period, actually a 3.5-day period, I was able to meet with the offices of Congressman Underwood, Representative Kinzinger, Senator Duckworth, and Senator Durbin. I also met with the office of Representative Dan Lipinski, who is very, very involved. Even though he's not in our area, he's very involved with transportation. We also had the opportunity to meet with the U.S. Department of Transportation and the Federal Aviation Authority, the FAA. I came back very, very pumped because I really felt that the response that we had from those legislative officers and those legislative staffers was excellent, spot on. But I can tell you conclusively that had not I been accompanied by Patty Daly, who did this prior to us even acting on this tonight, and because of her empathy for the city of DeKalb, because of the fact that she's worked for this city, because she has siblings who have gone to NIU, and yes, she is a member of that Daly clan in that community just to the east of us. This woman has been in Washington for 30 years. She has connections. I could not believe it, walking in the Longworth and the Dirksen and the Hart buildings and visiting with FAA, how impressive she was able to parlay some of the information that's in your background tonight on why this resolution makes sense. And furthermore, Ms. Daly indicated a real interest in coming out and spending a couple days with us. She said, I'd like to meet with your city council. Perhaps we could combine that with a strategic planning or something like that. But she wants to learn, you know, what it is that we are doing, what we've done, what we hope to do. Now, just one final point. This does not necessarily relate to this resolution, but I felt it necessary that we also talk to the legislative offices about two other things that are very, very important. I talked about the transit center, the need for us to, now that we've combined Husky Bus Line and the Transvac system, we need that transit center. We need those buildings, if you will, that will house our buses. In talking with Marcus Cox, our transit manager, I learned that there's a program called BUILD, which sort of fits our situation perfectly. Transit systems in rural areas, and so we're gonna work very, very hard on that. So I pitched the transit system. The other thing that I did is I let folks know about the important work that Dan Kenny and the DeKalb County Community Gardens have done in the effort of putting that fresh food hub somewhere up, probably, Carolyn, in your ward, up in the first ward. You know, that was one of the key considerations that came out of our Annie Glidden North revitalization program, if you recall, that fresh food hub. Very, very excellent response, especially from Senator Duckworth's office. Just incredible. And just as an aside, I invited all the legislators. We put Adam Kinzinger on a bus. I said, we'd love to have all of you come on. We'll put you on a bus, take you around the city of DeKalb, show you the good and the not so good. But the response was very, very good. So that, very briefly, as an addendum to what Bill was saying, I would fully support this resolution. But let's have any further discussion if you'd like. If not, then I guess we're ready for a roll call vote on this resolution. Did we get a motion on that? Yes, we did. Yeah, Bill, you did. Okay, please.
Morris,
Yes.
Fanouken,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
McAdams,
Yes.
Verbic,
Yes.
Favor,
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes.
7 ayes.
That resolution passes. Thank you. Number 3, Resolution 2019-143, authorizing a tax increment financing agreement with Barb City Manor, Inc. for facility improvements for 680 Haish Boulevard in an amount not to exceed $249,039 through December 31, 2019. I'd entertain a motion, please.
So moved?
Second?
It's been moved by Alderman McAdams, seconded by Alderman Smith. City Manager Nicholas, please.
This is the third in a series of enabling measures that the council has acted on or considered since the early summer. As you know, back on the 24th of June, a 10-year lease was entered with Barb City Manor, and then on September 23rd, a budget amendment to our TIF Fund 2 was made by the council for purposes of various improvements to the facility. There is now a pretty firm list, which I've identified in the backup, for improvements that can still be paid from TIF 2 between now and the end of the calendar year. And so what's before you tonight is a TIF funding agreement, which is what we've done with Barb City Manor in recent years, and we recommend your approval.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Fanouken,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
McAdams.
Yes.
Verbic,
Yes.
Favor,
Yes.
Morris. Mayor Smith.
Yes.
6 ayes.
That resolution passes. Thank you very much. And our final resolution of the evening is resolution number 4, Resolution 2019-144, authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with DeKalb County for membership in the DeKalb County Fiber Optic Network. I'd entertain a motion, please.
So moved. Second?
It's been moved by Alderman Verbic, seconded by Alderman McAdams. City Manager Nicholas, please.
We have a fiber optic cable run that goes along West Lincoln Highway from our current city hall to the police department. It's much in need of replacement, very worn, and we had looked originally at just replacing it in its current location for a cost of $150,000 or more. As an alternative, through some conversations we've had recently with DeKalb County regarding their fiber optic network, we came up with an alternative. We find it very attractive. They've offered us a leasing option for the partial use of a run of cable that they intend to install along the same path. The cost is $7,500 annually for a 10-year term, and we're sure that can be extended. We feel this is a good collaboration and certainly cost-effective, and we recommend your support.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Smith,
Yes.
McAdams.
Yes.
Verbic,
Yes.
Favor,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Fanouken,
Yes.
Mayor Smith,
Yes.
7 aye.
That resolution is approved. Thank you. Okay, now we move to item K on your agenda, ordinances. We have two up for second reading. The first is ordinance 2019-059, amending Chapter 3, City Administration, Section 3.14, City Clerk. I'd entertain a motion, please.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved by Alderman Fanouken, seconded by Alderman Verbeek. City Manager Nicholas, would you care to have anything to say about this? We've tossed it around quite a bit.
No, just unless, are there some people who want to speak to this, or no?
Yes, there are two folks who would like to speak, and then
Well,
you might...
typically I wait until...
Sure, okay, that's fine. We have two folks who would like to speak to this. Steve Capitan, you're first up, and then Bessie Kretnopoulos, you are on deck.
I won't go into what I've said about this in the past out of a consideration of not repeating myself. But I would just summarize in saying that this ordinance is unnecessary. The resolution, there are two issues at hand with regard to the city clerk. One is resolving any issues over the handling of the city business, particularly with the seal. And the second one is the structure of the office. And I am concerned that what has occurred throughout this whole process over these period of months is that the two have become confused or conflated. And the attempt to change the structure of the office has been, or the conflict over the seal has been used to change the structure of the office, which I believe is inappropriate. I would think that the best way to approach this, rather than passing an ordinance which again addresses structure of the ordinance, of the office, would be to sit down with the parties, as was embarked upon with Alderman Morris, and then truncated with the introduction of this ordinance. So I think that the council should go back to that and try and resolve this in that way. And then, after that is resolved, establish a deliberative process between now and a year from now, when the council has to decide, prior to the next election, what the structure of the next term of the office will be.
Thank you, Steve. Bessie Kretnopoulos?
Thank you, Mayor. We'll keep it real short. I've already sent an email to you. For those of you who do read your email, some of you do, some of you don't. Too oftentimes, many of you don't respond, but be that as it may. This whole thing is about the will of the people. Clearly, the will of the people is to restore the city clerk's office for the good of the city. It's that simple. This ordinance, Steve pointed it out, it's really not necessary, and it kind of circumvents and undercuts the whole purpose of the city clerk's office. Alderman Morris did a remarkable job of trying to pull together the various entities and trying to come up with a resolution, and that was undermined. I find that appalling. And she needs to be allowed to continue finishing that work, which everybody on the council agreed to, but then the rug was pulled at the 11th hour. And I'm pondering that one. Why in the world did that happen? Who composed this ordinance? Who okayed that be the case? Who undercut and undermined an elected official whose only desire was to resolve this issue? And I'm going to end by saying one word. I know Alderman Verbeek had mentioned this in the closed session minutes meeting, and this one word that kind of reverberates in my mind, and he mentioned it during a meeting here, unacceptable.
this, what you're going to do now, if you pass this, is indeed unacceptable. Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Bessie.
Yeah.
Okay, those are the two comments from the audience. Bill, do you have anything else on this?
No, just to
Yeah.
tell you what you know, which is
Right.
that this is
Okay.
back to you on second reading.
Any further discussion? Alderman Morris.
Just one note, excuse me. I couldn't agree more with what Steve Capitan noted. Those were really solid points. But I will say that I believe that the city has not demonstrated what the harm is with the current situation. And for this reason, I don't see how it's possible to identify a solution. Furthermore, I believe this solution degrades the role of clerk, which I believe the community has made clear they did not want through referendum. For these reasons, I'm opposed.
Thank you. Any other comments? Roll call, please.
McAdams.
No.
Verbic.
Yes.
Favor.
Yes.
Morris.
No.
Fanouken.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes.
5 aye, 2 nay.
That ordinance is approved. Number 2, ordinance 2019-061, amending Chapter 33, peddlers, solicitors, and itinerant merchants, Section 33.13, food or beverage vending vehicle, as it pertains to the licensing of food and beverage vending vehicles, and minor text amendments throughout the chapter. I'd entertain a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Alderman Smith, seconded by Alderman Fanouken. City Manager Nicholas, please.
As was reported at the last meeting, the main change was in the application fee. Instead of requiring a $50 per month renewal fee, vendors will be required to pay $50 annually. One of the big problems in trying to get people to come in and try their vending luck with events and other things was the what they considered to be a tall climb on the fees. So this was considered on first reading, comes back to you on second reading. We recommend your support.
Any further discussion on this? Roll call, please.
Favor.
Yes.
Morris.
Yes.
Fanouken.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
McAdams.
Yes.
Verbic.
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes.
7 aye.
Thank you. That ordinance is approved. Now we move to L, ordinances. This is first reading. Ordinance number 2019-064, amending Chapter 23, Unified Development Ordinance, Article 5.09, CBD, Central Business District, as it pertains to text amendments, making private parking lots and parking structures a permitted use in the Central Business District. I'd entertain a motion, please.
So moved.
Second?
It's been moved by Alderman McAdams, seconded by Alderman Favor. City Manager Nicholas, please.
Thank you, Mayor. And this concerns that lot at First and Locust, as you know. We received a proposal for $119,500 to help convert this into parking for the Plaza DeKalb residents, as opposed to having them take up other spaces in some of our more remote parking lots. It just comes back to you because our UDO is silent on whether private lots are permitted as a principal use. It would just be for parking, and to clarify that the private lots may be allowed in certain zoning districts by special use, which requires public hearing and goes before the Plan Commission, comes to the council. We've offered this ordinance to you. The Plan Commission considered it, thought it was a good idea to change the wording in the UDO to allow this on special use only. and did so by a vote of 5-0. So we are recommending your support for the Planning and Zoning Commission recommendation.
So this came to us from Planning and Zoning
Yes.
with a unanimous recommendation, right? Any further discussion? Alderman Fanouken?
Just a point of clarification, with the passage of this, will the developer still need to come back for approval, or this will take care of that?
No, if we had talked about that, we probably would have done that first, but we didn't, You can interpret when something's silent, 10 years from now, an attorney might say, well, that means it's okay, and the city attorney might say, no, that means it's not okay. According to our judgment, if it's not in the code, then it's not permitted, so it might have left somebody in limbo, so we recommend the approval tonight.
Well, I understand that, Bill, and I'm willing to go along with it. My question is, though, particular to this project, is that parking lot then approved, or will he need to come back?
It is approved then,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
But we haven't gone to closing yet until this action is taken.
Thank you.
Any other discussion or questions? Roll call, please.
Mayor, one question.
I'm sorry, didn't see your hand.
That's all right, catching up.
Tracy, okay.
Bill, if I'm understanding, I was planning and zoning, nothing else can go on that property but something flat, correct? We cannot
Right.
touch the soil. I
Right.
think the public needs to understand that wholeheartedly.
We talked about that at the last meeting.
Okay.
We had a letter from the IEPA which says that there is no further remediation required. However, if there is to be excavation below the surface, say down to footing level for a building of some kind, then all of that dirt and maybe more, once the excavation is done and exposes some of the subsoils, may have to be all removed from the site at an extraordinary amount of money, and it would preclude the possibility of successfully building a building there. So,
And if I understood that right, even if we do excavate or whoever builds there, they could be denied a further use of that pending the outcome of the soil test, correct? In other words, someone did go along and throw the money in there, they dug the hole, we came back bad.
yeah, the problem, we've got topsoil in there right now, and we've got to scrape that off for a parking lot, but we don't have to go down very far to put the subgrade in. The real problem will be the penetration of whatever the contamination was down 4, 5, 6, 7 feet. And if it goes under the city sidewalk and into the street, then, and you excavate down that far, you not only have to remove the soils from the site, you're probably going to have to go into, it could never end, we don't know. The EPA is happy to just encase it with a parking lot. They think that's a great idea.
That's where I was going. Thank you, sir.
Does that satisfy your question?
Those, what are called NFR letters, no further remediation letters, are recorded with the county recorder's office against the property. So the world and anybody, whoever looks at this property in the future will know what's involved and have access to that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Attorney Donahue. That satisfies you? Your question was satisfied, Bill?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Any further comments or questions? Alderman Morris?
To clarify, just give me a second to find the email, but I think someone had sent an email this evening suggesting...
I can't hear you, Carolyn.
Sorry. Someone had sent an email this evening suggesting that there was a portion that said that they could dig and put a taller parking structure on it. And was that what you were sort of getting at, Alderman Smith?
No, actually, it's the subsoil. Once they dug down for the footings, like they would expose potentially contaminated soil. Because I was at the meeting, and that would be subject to testing, if I understood it correctly, and it could halt the entire project.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be a gamble on any developer's part to even touch that piece of property and go below grade.
I see what you're saying.
Does that answer your question, Alderman Morris?
More so, I just wanted to point out, just highlight that there was no concern of
Right.
building because we know they can't build there. Right.
Correct.
Okay,
Okay,
that's it, yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Morris,
Yes.
Fanouken,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
McAdams,
Yes.
Verbic,
Yes.
Favor,
Yes.
Mayor Smith,
Yes,
7-0.
that
I'd like
ordinance
to- if I
passes
may-
on first reading.
Sorry, Jerry, didn't mean to step in your toes that time. I'd like to move to waive second
Thank you.
reading and approve.
Second.
Excuse me. It's It's been moved by Alderman Fanouken, seconded by Alderman Favor, that we waive second reading and approve. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Fanouken,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
McAdams.
Yes.
Verbic,
Yes.
Favor,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Mayor Smith,
Yes,
7 ayes.
that ordinance is approved. Number 2, ordinance 2019-065, authorizing the Northern Illinois University annual contribution for integrated transit services. I'd entertain a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Alderman Fanouken, seconded by Alderman Verbeek. And Alderman Smith has indicated that he has recused himself from voting because of his relationship with VAC. City Manager Nicholas.
The title just about said it all, except for the amount, $2,162,343.84. We recommend your approval. And if we could do this on first and second reading, we'd like to expedite this
Okay.
as well.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
McAdams.
Yes.
Verbic,
Yes.
Favor,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Fanouken,
Yes.
Mayor Smith,
Yes.
6 ayes.
Does any council member want to move to waive second reading?
I'll make the motion, waive second reading and approve. Seconded?
It's been moved by Alderman Fanouken, seconded by Alderman McAdams, that we waive second reading and approve this ordinance. Roll call.
Verbic,
Yes.
Favor,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Fanouken,
Yes.
McAdams.
Yes.
Mayor Smith,
Yes.
6 ayes.
That ordinance is approved. Number 3, ordinance number 2019-066, authorizing an airport ground lease with Syndio Networks Incorporated for a secure fiber optic cable network facility. I'd entertain a motion, please.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved by Alderman Smith, seconded by Alderman Verbeek. City Manager Nicholas, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Back at their meeting in June, the city's Airport Advisory Board had a chance to consider the concept of a ground lease for Syndio on our property, just north of our airport maintenance building on Pleasant Street. And the purpose would be to serve us, because they have been Syndio has been providing us our IT services for a long time. Also to serve them, it would become the hub for Syndio's fiber optic network. And the council heard a presentation on this on July 8th and told us to proceed in working on a ground lease, which we've been working on. And also in the same period of time, Syndio's been working on the shape and size of the building that they'd like to construct. So we come back to you tonight with a ground lease that is much more detailed than the concept we had presented back in July. The essential points are in your background, but for people in the audience who haven't read that or seen it online. This will become the city's new data center. We'd be provided free of charge fiber pairs that we need at no cost, plus rack and power for the wattage that is required for that center. And that would be at no charge to us for the life of the lease. It becomes the hub for Syndio's fiber optic network. As I said, they will have a backup generator, all of this at their own expense. And secure fencing. This rent would also consist of some in-kind services provided to us at no cost. It would be for 20 years with possibility of one 20-year extension at the mutual agreement of the parties. Tenant will pay all utilities, construct the building, at all times keep it adequately protected, assume the responsibility for liability and other insurance, name the city as an additional insured, hold us harmless and indemnify us for any losses or damages on the acts or omissions of the tenant. So we feel this is a good arrangement, and we're looking forward to proceed with this before cold weather clamps its hand on us, which may already be in the offing, we don't know. So because there is a lease involved here, it's going to require, I said 2/3 vote of the corporate authorities in the background. I'm advised by the city attorney it's a 3/4 vote. My apologies for the error. So we will need a 3/4 vote to approve this tonight if you go to second reading.
So with what we have up here, John, that would be a 4 vote. We need 4 votes to...
6 votes.
3/4.
3/4.
How many votes? We need 6 votes.
Yes, 6
Okay,
votes.
very good. 6 affirmative votes if we were to pass it, okay? It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Favor.
Yes.
Morris.
Yes.
Fanouken.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
McAdams.
Yes.
Verbic.
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes.
7 aye.
Does the council member move to waive second reading and approve this ordinance?
So moved.
Seconded?
It's been moved by Alderman Morris, seconded by Alderman McAdams. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Morris.
Yes.
Fanouken.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
McAdams.
Yes.
Verbic.
Yes.
Favor.
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes.
7 aye.
That ordinance does pass. Number 4, ordinance 2019-067, authorizing the exchange of real estate and approving an exchange of real estate agreement as the portion of 912 Edgebrook and Black Hawk Road, PIN 08-15-0, PIN 08-15-101-013. Motion, please.
So moved.
Seconded?
It's been moved by Alderman Verbeek and seconded by, it's been moved by Alderman Favor and seconded by Alderman Verbeek. City Manager Nicholas, please.
This is a land swap. We don't do this very often. 2 years ago, almost to the day, council authorized the purchase of 912 Edgebrook, formerly a multifamily housing building on Edgebrook, and it's about an acre inside. It's on an acre parcel. At the time, we knew that likely was little or no chance of this being renovated, and we, at the time, also solicited bids, I'm told, to remove the asbestos and to demolish the building, and those bids were in the vicinity of $300,000 and up, so there's a fair amount of city money invested in that property. One of the adjacent property owners, Mr. Andriaki, and his family own the property at 830 Edgebrook, and they are interested in using a portion of our parking lot for expanding their parking lot. Their building was built long before our higher standards for off-street parking were implemented. And if you drive on Edgebrook, you know that it's also part of our Safe Streets initiative, and you can't have resident parking on the street, and except by permit or some special occasion. So this creates a great strain on not only the Andriakis but others on that street. So parking's at a premium, and the solution to have more parking is not readily at hand, typically. In this case, though, the idea was posed to us, would we be willing to trade a portion of our parking lot for an equal-sized property, which happens to be just south of the Fanatico's restaurant on Blackhawk, or 0.4 acres for 0.4 acres. There's really no maintenance involved in this parking lot, which has been abandoned for a long time. You can see that there was once some striping on it. There's no mowing to be done there. We have to knock down the weeds maybe a couple times a year. And so it seems like a fair deal. It solves a parking problem and a neighborhood problem, and it makes us a vested owner in an area that will ultimately be redeveloped. It gets us at the table. I think that's the main advantage for us. And obviously the consolidation of a portion of our lot with the Andriakis would be done at their expense entirely. So it's before you tonight with our recommendation. Again, this would take a 3/4 vote if you were to approve it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve this ordinance on first reading. Roll call, please.
Fanouken,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
McAdams.
Yes.
Verbic,
Yes.
Favor,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Mayor Smith,
Yes.
7 aye.
Any member want to waive second reading and move on to approve on this?
So moved.
Thank you.
Seconded?
It's been moved by Alderman Morris, seconded by Alderman McAdams. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Smith,
Yes.
McAdams.
Yes.
Verbic,
Yes.
Favor,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Fanouken,
Yes.
Mayor Smith,
Yes.
7 aye.
Thank you. That ordinance is approved. Number 5, ordinance 2019-068, providing for the termination of the City of DeKalb Tax Increment Financing District 2, TIF 2, and the dissolution of the Special Tax Allocation Fund for TIF 2 on December 31, 2019. I'd entertain a motion, please.
So moved.
Second?
It's been moved by Alderman Fanouken, seconded by Alderman Favor. City Manager Nicholas, any comments?
Well, this action's in compliance with the TIF Act, the State of Illinois. The ordinance that you've had a chance to look at officially closes our TIF 2. If approved, and obviously strongly recommend that it be approved in conformance with the act, the ordinance must be filed with DeKalb County no later than November 1st. And I did note in the background that although this action officially closes TIF 2 effective December 31st, 2019, some eligible expenditures such as at Barb City Manor can be made for building improvements that are TIF eligible until that time. This is one I would recommend a waiver of second reading on so that we can get this filed. Never hurts to be a little bit ahead of the filing deadline. Our next meeting would be October 28th, and I feel this is the right thing to do.
Any discussion on this consideration of first reading? If not, roll call, please.
McAdams.
Yes.
Verbic,
Yes.
Favor,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Fanouken,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Mayor Smith,
Yes.
7 aye.
Any member want to move to waive second reading?
So moved.
Seconded?
It's been moved by Alderman Smith, seconded by Alderman McAdams, that we waive second reading and approve this ordinance. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Verbic,
Yes.
Favor,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Fanouken,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
McAdams.
Yes.
Mayor Smith,
Yes.
7 aye.
That ordinance is approved. That concludes our considerations and our ordinances tonight. We move to item M, reports and communications, giving our city council members an opportunity to report or communicate anything they'd like. We'll start with our first ward alderman, Carolyn Morris.
Thank you. I'm going to be having a ward meeting coming up. Let me just verify when exactly it is. I apologize. It's going to be on October 22nd at Fanatico's in DeKalb at 6:30 p.m. Looking forward to seeing everybody there.
Thank you. Anything else?
No,
No?
that's
Okay.
it. Thank you.
Alderman Fanouken, please.
I'd just like to report that I volunteered today at an NIU open house for prospective students. Several thousand prospective students were there today, great turnout. The city had a table there. We answered quite a number of questions about the city, a lot of questions about transit, and particular questions about how do we get to DeKalb from the city, and we're very grateful to be able to answer. We now have the Auburn shuttle up and running, and so that the parents and students were glad to hear about that.
Good. Alderman Smith.
No report.
Alderman McAdams.
Earlier this month, we had a meeting at the HRC. We had a very productive conversation in regards to the situation with the police department and arrests. And we had further discussion between the residents of the city and the police department in regards to ways to address these issues going forward. And we'll have more to report on that later. And I just want to say thank you to the fire department. They had a gala event on Saturday night celebrating 150 years of service, and it was a fantastic dinner and a great opportunity to learn more about the fire department.
Thank you. Alderman Verbeek.
We have a Finance Advisory Committee meeting on Monday, October 21st at 6 o'clock, I believe is the time.
That's correct.
Look forward to it.
Thank you. Alderman Favor.
Nothing to report.
I have three short items. Tomorrow I will be making my report to the community at the Chamber State of the City breakfast, along with NIU President Lisa Freeman. We will both be making our reports to the community. I appreciate this chance to review what current conditions are in DeKalb, and I look forward to my official State of the City address before the City Council shortly after the first of the year. As you may know, the city has inaugurated our Complete Count Committee. It's part of our effort to assure a complete count of our residents during the 2020 census. Kudos to Ray Munch, Jason Blumenthal, and intern Adam Grubbs for spearheading this effort. The census is just absolutely critical to this community, for sure. And as I had indicated at the beginning of the meeting, I'm pleased to report that we have 6 Fourth Ward residents who have indicated their interest in fulfilling the unexpired term of Alderman Pat Fagan. My hope is to be able to interview each of these folks over the next week or two and to arrive at an appointment to be considered soon thereafter. I suspect that would occur probably during our first meeting in November. That concludes the City Council member reports, the mayoral reports. City Clerk Lynn Fazekas, anything to report?
No report.
And City Manager Nicholas, any additional items to report?
Just one thing, I'm now a proud owner of property, a domicile in the city of DeKalb. I'm living at 170 Tigert Lane. Moved in on the 1st of December, December. It's kind of run together here. The 1st of October, and I'm almost 7.
Just keep the noise down over there, would you?
It's a quiet house, I'll tell you.
Any other reports from any other folks tonight? If not, I would like to entertain a motion to approve to hold an executive session in order to discuss, number 1, purchase or lease of real property as provided for in 5 ILCS 120/2C5, and number 2, pending or imminent litigation as provided for in 5 ILCS 120/2C11. I'd entertain a motion to hold an executive session.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Alderman Favor, seconded by Alderman Smith. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Favor.
Yes.
Morris.
Yes.
Fanouken.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
McAdams.
Yes.
Verbeek.
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes.
7 ayes.
We are now in recess for executive session. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.